recently I found, especially coming up, towards the end of the year, we're starting a brand new year. I feel like there's a lot of pressure to like new year, new me. And I feel like there's with Christmas and New Year, there's a level of anxiety there anyway. But now with this kind of time that we're living in, it's
Mhm.
like, oh, here's another layer of anxiety. It's like we're just constantly in this big onion of anxiety.
Anxiety, that's beautiful, write that down.
Such a
Onion of
beautiful
anxiety.
analogy. But it is, it's like, and I wanted to get your professional opinion because when I get hit with anxiety or, I'm having a bit of a panic attack or any of those moments, like I go from like racing thoughts to, like a dry mouth to feeling constantly irritated, like I struggle to concentrate. I even noticed it down to like my diet. If I know if like I'm struggling with my anxiety, I will like I will go towards the bad food rather than, sticking to, the good stuff. And it's kind of like, and it's those factors that I know that my anxieties are bad. From your professional opinion, what
Mhm.
other symptoms do you see like on a daily basis, or have you noticed yourself when it comes to anxiety?
Yeah, I mean, everyone suffers from, anxious times. It's worth pointing out that not all anxiety is pathological, right? If we were to run out in traffic in New York City back when people would congregate, you'd want a little bit of anxiety. It's protective.
Yeah.
And some of the symptoms or some of the things that you just mentioned, like your dry mouth and your heart
Yeah.
pounding and whatnot, that's your sympathetic nervous system basically getting you prepared for fight or flight. You're either going to
Yeah.
run away or you're going to engage. So that's normal physiology. However, what can happen and what some people experience is anxiety that's way out of proportion to whatever stressors in front of them,
Yeah.
and it's kind of stuck there. So the lever is kind of stuck in high gear, and so you might have a disproportionate response towards something that is in fact anxiety promoting. It could be
Yeah.
financial issues or family issues or relationship issues or just navigating the world. But when it's horribly out of proportion, your response, then it's very,
Yeah.
very difficult to navigate and get it back under control.
Is there a
So,
way
mhm,
of controlling it? Because obviously mine comes in waves.
mhm,
I'll go for like 2, 3 days of feeling absolutely fine, like forgetting to take like my medication. I feel like, oh, okay, that was a good day. And then there's some days where it is literally being like hit by a taxi in Times
yeah,
Square.
yeah,
It's like, bam, here you go. And it's how would you recommend to get through episodes like that?
yeah. Anxiety disorders and things like panic attacks are horrible, horrible things to endure. So I'm very sympathetic to
Hmm.
the cause of, how do you manage these things and what do you do
Yeah.
when you're in the middle of them? And I have a lot of authentic and sincere empathy for people who have anxiety disorders. Having said that, you can manage these things, thank God. There's an aspect of treatment. So, one of the things you can do is treatment. If you have anxiety that's horribly out of control and horribly disproportionate and it's causing you to suffer, affect your life, you can get treatment. You can come in and see a psychiatrist or a therapist, and a lot of times you'll be able to learn how to wrangle your mind and know the signs of things that are horribly debilitating, like
Yeah.
anxious rumination or catastrophic thinking, and kind of figure out what your tells are. That kind of like a poker player, right?
Yeah.
Like this, if you got a full house or something. You figure out what your physiological tells are. It could be tightness in the chest. It could be upset tummy. It could be you feel like your brain is kind of spinning or your mind is kind of spinning.
Yeah.
And that lets you know that anxious process is going on. And then we develop strategies to cut the circuit so that you can get your thoughts back in order, as it were. Part of it is, sometimes medication management that allows
Yeah.
you to decrease the amplitude of the symptoms so that you can kind of get in there and wrangle your mind and learn how to use technique to manage your thoughts so
Yeah.
they don't keep stampeding. But that's really what we try to do. We try to, our medications in psychiatry, they don't cure really anything, but they can help decrease the amplitude of the symptoms so they come down, and then you can manage your mind a little bit easier. And hopefully you have a therapist or a coach or a mentor who can then work with you to develop a system where you can get your
Yeah.
thoughts back in order and not just keep reacting and reacting. Fear feels as if you're drowning almost, and it's hard to take instruction, right? When you're
When you're
drowning, right?
scrambling. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
If you just kind of arch your back a little bit and kind of, you're not going to really listen in the midst of, yeah, I'm drowning.
Trying to keep my head above water.
Right, right. So the idea is to develop a, sort of a process that's always with you that helps you either keep from getting into anxious situations, right? So that would be better than having to manage once you're in it.
Yeah.
Be able to forecast some of the things that tend to be promontory situations or conditions that engender excessive anxiety, right?
Yeah.
And there's what to do once you're in it to break the circuit, so to speak, and pull yourself back out as quickly as possible.
There's one of the things that I want to touch upon that you said, and especially
Mhm.
around the therapy and reaching out part. It's one of the biggest coping mechanisms that I have is, I have the pleasure of speaking to yourself, and other members of the practice of just you're like, oh, I'm not feeling it today. This is what's going on. And I get some really solid advice back, and just having that little bit of we have a saying over here called like, it's a bit of a chin wag. I don't know if that's a thing over there, but
Good.
I'm going with
Those
it.
little phrases of yours, I want to adopt them.
So yeah, we have a bit of a chin wag in terms of how, how we're feeling, what's bothering us, this, that, and the other. And even just by reaching out, I mean, I think a lot of people get anxiety about having anxiety. And then
Yeah.
even just to talk about it gives them anxiety. It's just like a horrible circle of kind of emotion that you go through, even just to open up. But like you just said, like by breaking that circuit, it kind of rechannels, into a positive circuit rather than like an anxious one. And it's the
Mhm.
same with talking about it and opening up. I mean, obviously, I have the pleasure of speaking to you guys, and a lot of people out there who will listen to this, are now going to have that pleasure as well. We're here when you need us, but it's about breaking that circuit of feeling like you're a burden, feeling like you're the only one feeling like that. We're all humans, we're all feeling these emotions. And the
Yeah.
minute you break that circuit, believe me, it's going to break a hell of a lot of anxiety down
Mhm.
about your anxiety.
Mhm.
I said anxiety too many times then. It was starting to sound weird in my head.
Make you very anxious, very, very.
I was giving myself anxiety by saying the word anxiety.
If you keep saying anxiety over and over, you will, in fact, become anxious.
I'm going to
So
stop saying
that would be
it.
one thing. Don't say anxiety so much, but maybe also understanding that anxiety disorders are, incredibly, incredibly common, unfortunately, especially
Yeah.
with the anxiety-provoking situations that are going on today, politically and otherwise,
Hmm.
pandemic and otherwise. Um, so I think first normalizing like this is, normal to have
Yeah.
anxiety that gets out of control, and then therapy or coaching or just a connection with people who you count on, your family, your friends, a mental health professional, can help you sort of develop a way of coping with anxiety when it gets out of hand, and then be able to bring it back towards something you can actually manage. I think the important thing to remember is that it's temporary. Like when you're
Yeah.
drowning, you think this is going to go on forever. It might if you don't enlist, some strategies and some technique and some help. But I think coming up with a system that makes sense to you, that you can access in your life,
Yeah.
operationalize, and that you validate for yourself, this has worked for me in the past. I know that, there goes my mind doing this circuit of anxious rumination
Yeah.
or catastrophic thinking, like sort of whirlwinding into, my entire life's over if, I was late this morning or something. Now my career is done and I'm going to be on Skid Row. You can basically learn how to forecast when these things are going to happen, and then you have strategies that you've done over and over and over that have worked
Yeah.
for you. And that's where it can really be helpful to be in treatment, less so, in a reactive stance, like, oh my God, something bad happened, I need to go talk to a mental health professional.
Yeah.
Active, using the space of therapy and coaching to determine systems, that work for you, or
Yeah.
or mindset that works for you, to actually promote a better quality of life. That's a lot different than how most people come into, say, a psychiatric practice. They come in, because some catastrophic event has happened, or symptoms have just gotten to the point where they're unmanageable. You can start to develop a collaboration, I think, where you're working on, okay, well, how do I have my life put together here? Is it compartmentalized and I've got everything separate? Or so synergistically, you get a much better quality of life. You start giving yourself things to perform, whether it's sleep or nutrition or exercise.
Yeah.
Start nourishing yourself in a sense, so that you get to a much more proactive system of navigation through your life, where you're just kind of putting forth effort to have some gain, versus shoring up the losses or putting out the
Yeah.
fires, where most people are a lot of the time.
It's quite a lot of the basics, isn't it? Like you're saying there about like, like fitness and like food and stuff like that. It's stuff like that that will, like, without even realizing, can have such a positive impact on both your physical and mental health, especially when we're talking about the A word. I'm not saying it again because it's creeping me out now. But but it's those little things. It's about, like you're saying there, about like finding your own mechanisms, like find what works for you.
Yeah, you have to develop a system. That's really what
Yeah.
works for people, because it's not enough to tell somebody what they need to do. They have to do it and validate it for themselves over and over, so they know that it
Yeah.
works. And that gives you that level of assurance and confidence that, when you have these anxious episodes, that you have something to do that's going to help you get out of it. Because
Yeah.
again, it feels like you're drowning when it's happening. So, I just did a article for someone on biohacks, and they were asking me about, what if I had bionic retinas, or, 3 arms or something
Wow.
like that. It's like, yeah, I mean, you could do that, but it's going to be difficult, especially when it comes time to buy mittens if you got 3 arms, right? Then you're going to get the A word right there. So there's other things that you can do short of these very exotic and likely costly and likely not validated things.
Yeah.
Biohack your life, and a lot of times you can do the things that are right in front of you that are free, because then anything's really biohacking if you
Yeah.
think about it. So what I recommend is proper hydration. First of all, nourishing your body properly throughout the day, appropriate portion size of meals, and consistency in how you're nourishing your body.
Yeah.
I don't care how resilient you are. If you become hypoglycemic throughout the day continually, your brain's going to go on tilt, and that whole thing, hangry, That's a real thing. People
Oh,
get,
I'm fully aware it's a real thing.
I'm getting there now, actually.
Yeah.
So nourishing your body, of course, exercise is as a fundamental aspect of what we do here. Fit
Yeah.
lifestyle is key to that, as we've talked about many times. Taking time in nature, provided it's not freezing like it is now. Time with friends and family. These are all
From a
things
distance,
yeah,
from a
yeah,
safe
or
distance.
yeah, being connected to people, as well as proper sleep. Now, these are things that we all know, right? It's kind of common
Yeah.
sense stuff, but very few of us pay attention to. I can tell you
It's
in
kind of the stuff that we take for granted in a way, isn't it?
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah,
because
like
it's
sleep.
it's free, it's there in front of us. It's like, oh, I can do that kind of anytime. But it's those things that are really gonna give you that leg up, if you like, to a positive mental, not attitude, but like a positive mental lifestyle.
Yeah, and so something that really helps, again, along the lines of, having a consigliere, someone you can bounce ideas off of who you trust, you can start to look at how you're approaching some of these things and change them for your
Yeah.
benefit and to support you in trying to get to this tipping point where all of your energy or more of your energy is going into making your way in the world in a happy way
Yeah.
and less dealing with the consequences. Time well spent. I mean, the concept that you make, it's an important one. It's dead time versus active time, right? Are,
Exactly.
are
Yeah.
you using the moments of your day paying attention to this stuff, or are you distracted and you forget about it? And the other point that you made, I think, is also well taken, that you need to operationalize all this stuff. Like,
Yeah.
you can't be, you know, doing the mental cartwheels and contortions to
Hmm.
think about all this and actually use it when you need it, in your day to day. So you need some way to kind of remind yourself, like almost like touchstones throughout your life during the course of your day, that keep you in line with giving you all this improved quality of life. That means you want to make it easy, right? So,
Exactly.
for instance, whenever you talk about water, you always see me pull this big jug of water out. I
Exactly.
keep
Hydration is key.
right. I keep it near me. And basically, whenever anyone says water or they drink something, I'll take a drink, and that way I can get through roughly a gallon of water a day. Otherwise, I can't. If I don't have this with me, if I don't,
Yeah.
have my tools for navigating life, it makes it a lot more difficult. But if you put these tools, if you kind of pepper your path
Pepper
with
your path.
these
Wow.
things that make it easier for you, you'll get these things done. So, for instance, working out, best time to do it first thing in the morning. Why?
Yeah.
Body is trying to wake up, or you're forcing it to wake up. Your circadian rhythm is, aligned that way. So if you go ahead and use your first hour, use it in an intended way of not dead time but active time,
Yeah.
and you get this thing done consistently, and you validate it that this is like one of the stepping stones of your day. So it's important, of course, to be healthy, and as part of that, you should have some physical exercise, but you can use these things that you would do anyway
Yeah.
in a more intended way to get a lot more traction in your life. So all these things, when you do them together and you start to pay attention to them, like getting proper sleep and not staying up all night watching Netflix, having prepared food that's nutritious that you give yourself throughout the day, hydrating, spending time with friends or people that you enjoy or care about. It's you.
Oh.
Aw, aw. Yeah. So these things help, and they make your life a lot better. And as you do them more consistently, you find like, wow, I can really
Yeah.
perform. I mean, it sounds obvious, right? I can perform at such a high level. Now, as you go through your life, you want to kind of create a posse or a crew to be around you who are trying to boost you
Yeah.
up, who are buoyant and not toxic, and kind of know what you're doing and try to make it easy for you,
Yeah.
right? Buddhist teaching philosophy is called a sangha. It's basically it's like your study group for Buddhism, right?
Yeah.
So they make it easier along your path. If you're trying to like, lose some weight or something, they're not throwing, Haagen-Dazs at you all the time. They're trying to make your path
Oh no, please don't.
your path better and easier for the idea that they want you to be well in the world and succeed.
Yeah.
So along the same lines, you kind of create a group around you who is aware of what you're doing. You share with them what you're trying to achieve, and then they help you do it, whether through points of accountability or encouragement or doing it with you. So you can always enlist a friend, if you wanted to get something done
But
that's going to.
it's important though, isn't it? Because it's that, and I was doing a lot of reading recently into like Stoic and what they teach and what they practice, and considering that all this stuff was done like hundreds of years ago, if you actually really delve into it, it's actually a really modern way of living that I feel like as humans we've kind of skipped, and we just made everything so much more difficult and complicated for ourselves. So it is, and I advise it to anyone because sometimes when you take that step back and look in, it actually gives you the biggest clarification and clarity of actually what's going on. And I think it's then when you take a step back and allow yourself to process and, feel, that you can really put together a plan in terms of, whether it's fitness, whether it's hydration. I mean, I'm not the most active person in the world, but I know what I need to do to kind of keep active and, you know, allow myself to function. And it took me a long time to get to that point, but now I'm in a real mindset of allowing myself to win. I've got all these basic tools into like, around me, like food, friends, you know, my bed. I have a pregnancy pillow now, which honestly, I sleep like a baby now because of it. I advise anyone to get one.
The pregnancy pillow? What? I'm afraid
Do
to
you not
ask
know
what that.
what a pregnancy pillow is? So they're like it's like a pillow, but it's like a triangle shape.
Huh,
So I always sleep with like a pillow, like in between my
yeah.
legs, like on the side.
Yeah.
So this pillow, it's like you can have like a little bit of a hug, and then
Aw,
the other bit, yeah.
sounds like
I just realized how
a
incredibly
pregnancy
lonely that makes me sound.
pillow.
But it is,
I
it's
think,
about, there's the little simple things like a pregnancy pillow that is going to allow you to win. And it just have such a positive impact on your mental health.
yeah, the brain loves wins. That's the whole, and it won't differentiate a little one from a big win. It just
Yeah.
loves to win. It feels good. You get dopamine release and endorphins and that whole thing. If you understand how the mind works, then you can hack it, and that's a lot of
Yeah.
fun because the mind's going to do what it's going to do anyway. But if you know what it's going to do ahead of time, you can kind of channel it to do your bidding, right? And if your bidding is I want to progress in my life and I want to spend
Yeah.
more and more time doing things in a manner that's energetically efficient and buoyant and that drives me towards the achievements that uh, I really hope to accomplish in life versus just doing a lot of stuff
Yeah.
which has no meaning or purpose. You're going to feel a lot better. And so mindset as a vehicle to navigate anxiety, I think that's the most effective strategy. You can use medications if you need it. You can um, do all of these things, but if you start to develop a big enough why
Yeah.
you're doing these things, then very consistently you move towards the things that you want to achieve. You're wasting less time. You're not creating more chaos, and the mind
Yeah.
tends to calm down with that. The mind is very um, satisfied with
Yeah.
just endless winning. It like
I'm sure there's a song in there somewhere. Is it like all
probably
I do is
involved a
win?
pregnancy pillow at some.
Don't knock it. And honestly, don't knock it till you've tried it. It is, oh,
Yeah, had me at
like
hello.
a baby. It's funny, like we've got mindset as a topic coming up as a later episode in the series, and it's something where we will be delving into how you can keep a positive mindset, what can cause a negative mindset,
Yeah,
and overall how to have a winning mindset. So you will have to stay tuned if you want to hear
Steve,
more about that. Stay tuned.
it's foreshadowing. Do the pregnancy pillow. Somebody comes out.
I would send you a photo of my pregnancy pillow, and
Okay.
it's beautiful.
Beautiful.
Sometimes I look at it, like when I'm working, I look at it, I just feel like, oh,
Aw.
please
Like that
help me.
episode of Glee. I'm such a big fan of that. We watch it with the kids, and the
You don't
show's.
watch that with the kids. You love that by yourself.
I do.
Just be
I do.
blaming kids.
Not ashamed to admit it, but they had that like one of the characters had that like boyfriend pillow, and it was like an arm and a put the boyfriend pillow around you.
Yeah, you're not selling me very well here. Or I'm going to throw it away. I'm not going to throw it away.
I think we can revisit this topic a zillion times and always find something useful. You know, it's kind of the nice thing about all this is we're all more alike than we are different. And so
Definitely.
if through some introspection, you go, oh, I see how this works for me. Generally, that's how it works for most people. And if you're taking the opportunity when you're anxious or frustrated to do a little introspection, a lot of times you've got the right lever, because we don't have any ability to really control anything else but our behavior, right? So if you take every opportunity where you're frustrated or angry and you use that as an indicator, right, to inward, you're going to find all this untapped capacity, and you're actually doing the only thing that you have control over anyway, right?
Yes.
So it becomes a very, very consistent way to have confidence in and kind of gauge how you're doing things to see if you're getting the result that you want as it comes to making your way through life, but not getting over anxious in the process.
There is, and it's literally I've took so much away from this episode. So I know for a fact a lot of other people, especially like obviously the listeners, will take some, and I hope it's broke down some of those questions and some of those things that people are quite anxious to talk about when they're talking about anxiety. That's the last time I'm going to say that in this episode because it is it's triggering mine. But yeah, you'll have to stay with us, stay tuned. If you like what you're hearing, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. But keep an eye out for us, because over in the next couple of weeks and over on our social channels, you'll see our mental health bingo, which will give you the tools to focus. And well, hopefully you'll take some away from it. Some of the tools that the guys at the practice have given me, like I put in to practice now on a daily basis, and it gets me through my day, especially when things get a little bit manic. And so I know for a fact they're going to help you too. So yeah, hit that subscribe button, and we will see you next week.